They call it the I-70 series. St. Louis versus Kansas City. Tonight, it's game one of a three-game set in KC and Kauffman Stadium. And guess who's back in the starting lineup? That's right, Salvador Perez, one of the top young catchers in the game, will be batting seventh in the starting lineup. Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Physiak. This is Rex Hudler. The Royals returning from a road trip that saw them win 4 of their 6 games, and now they get one of the top young catchers back in Salvi Perez.
What a breath of fresh air. A nice shot in the arm. This kid right here possesses adrenaline. He has skills. He has that enthusiasm. He's going to lead this pitching staff. Now, offensively, his timing might be off a little bit, but just to have this guy's leadership back with the Royals is a trade that Dayton Moore didn't have to make.
Tonight, Salvi Perez will catch Vin Mazzero. The last time out against St. Louis, Mazzero threw 6 shutout innings. Cards and Royals coming your way next. This game is brought to you in high definition by Time Warner Cable, the official TV, internet, and home phone provider of the Kansas City Royals. We are ready for game one of this I-70 Interleague Series between Kansas City and St. Louis. Vin Mazzero making the start, the 25-year-old right-hander from Hackensack, New Jersey. Won his last. And he is 3-1 this year, facing Rafael Furcal, who came in batting .288, the speedy shortstop for St. Louis. Still looking to find the strike zone.
Okay, Mazzero sinking fastball. He'll force seam it up there around 94, 95 occasionally, but he's better when he sinks it. Good slider, change up and a curve.
A strike in there. The count is 3-1 on Furcal. Been in his last start through 6 shutout innings versus St. Louis. Gets another strike across with that sinking fastball. That was in that dramatic 3-2 victory by the Royals when he needed only 80 pitches to go 6 innings, but had to leave after 6 innings because of tightness in his leg.
Yeah, you know, he doesn't have to swing the bat today. That was after he got on base and he ran a little bit. He felt a little discomfort in that calf, but back to the American League Park, and a beautiful yard it is, and a wonderful evening. Way to get back in that count, too, after falling down 3-0. He's back in it.
He misses with the fastball and walks Furcal. And let's take a look at the rest of that St. Louis batting order. Furcal, then Jay, Holiday, and Carlos Beltran, who played 7 years with the Kansas City Royals and hit 123 home runs with the team. Molina, Freese, Carpenter, Green, and Schumacher, 3 individuals we did not see in St. Louis because of injuries. Jay was one, Schumacher the other, and Matt Carpenter also healthy today. Here is John Jay out with a shoulder injury.
Okay, Furcal, he'll run. His legs are in a little bit better shape than they were a week ago. He's had some rest, feels pretty good. He's got 9 stolen bases. I don't know if Matheny will run him or not, but he certainly can. They're happy to have John Jay back. He really patrols center field. Good with the bat, spray hitter. Slaps the ball all around. Moustakas, he respects the fact that he can't bunt, so he's playing even with him at third.
Furcal does have 9 stolen bases this year in 12 attempts. But this time, Salvi Perez is the catcher. And he is one of the top young defensive catchers in the game, just turned 22. Out of play, so Mazzero has the count his way, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Here is Salvi Perez. He injured his left meniscus way back in the first couple of weeks of spring training. And they said it would be about 8 to 12 weeks, and that was certainly the case. And he was tearing it up down in Omaha, rehabbing, and they said he was ready to go. So bring him back for St. Louis.
All right, what's our Kia report on Vin Mazzero? We need to show those keys. What's he going to do? What he hopes to do. Trust his stuff. That's right. Throw the sinker in there. Pitch to contact. Use that great defense and follow your new leader, Salvador Perez. And what a difference he looks back there already. Look at Salvador on his knees is almost as big as John Jay. I mean, he's a big target to throw to. He's got soft hands. He's a catch and throw guy. He'll throw behind bases, behind runners, try to pick guys off. He's the real deal, and it's happy to see him back.
And the pitch comes too far inside. It hits John Jay, so a bad start for Ben Mazzaro as the first two Cardinals have reached here in the first inning. A walk and now a hit batter after he was in front 1-2.
You know, this is just above that little pad there, caught him on the shin bone. Now, the St. Louis Cardinals on their 3-game road trip after the Royals left Busch Stadium, they had a hard time. They were 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position in last night's game. Yesterday's went extra innings and the Tigers beat them. And they were just 3 for 22 in that past 3-game series. So getting big hits has not happened for St. Louis.
Now Mazzaro must go through their 3 very best: Matt Holliday, Carlos Beltran, and Yadier Molina, each of them with 37 RBIs or more, and we are just in mid-June. This is a team very offensive minded. First in batting in the National League, second in runs, third in home runs.
Okay, now with these sluggers coming up, you wouldn't expect the runners to be running at all. They want to take a chance. And with Salvador Perez, they know good and well about his throwing ability, so I'd expect him to stay home. Best thing for Mazzaro would be a ground ball double play to get Holliday to ground into his 8th double play all year.
Tries to dump it to right field. On comes Francoeur. And Frenchie brings the throw home, cut off by Hosmer. The bases are loaded for St. Louis in the very first inning. Let's go with our forward around the horn defense for Kansas City.
Okay, this is a team that really is good. They help their pitching staff big time. It's the reason why they were 7-3 in their last 10 games. But their catcher, wow, I can't help it. You're going to hear us talk a lot about this young man. His first day back, man, can he command the starting pitching in the bullpen. Going to see him at least 5 days a week, hopefully. He says he has no sign of any problem with his knee, and right now, they got their work cut out for him. Nobody out, bases loaded. Mazzaro needs to stay down.
Beltran hits it pretty well to left field, driving Gordon back to the wall, and he can't make the play. In comes Furcal. In comes John Jay. 2-0 St. Louis.
That ball just drifted as Beltran in his first at-bat back at Kauffman Stadium doubles off the wall with the bases loaded on a fastball right down the middle. Lucky that ball wasn't a salami. Ball drifted. Gordon, he was going back to the wall, had a chance to catch this ball. Just didn't quite get back enough as he did a little face plant on that wire wall out there in left field. Just couldn't quite glove it. And that'll knock in 2 for sure. So good start for St. Louis after I mentioned them not having much success at all in Detroit.
The time and temperature brought to you by the parking spot. It is a hot, humid evening. 85 degrees at the first pitch, which was thrown at 7:09. Now Holliday at third, Beltran at second. Mazzaro needs to somehow get an out. If he can get out of this trouble, trailing by just 3, he would have to feel good, because he has really worked himself into a terrible jam. A walk, a hit batter, a single, then the double by Beltran.
Well, he doesn't look like to me he's trusting his stuff. Now, he could have some mechanical issues. Dave Highland already went out and tried to address some of those, but it's like he might be a little bit tentative. That's exactly where you want to stay, right there on a really good hitter.
Hud, I've got to get your thoughts on Yadier Molina's shoes. I mean, they easily could be Corky the Clown shoes from St. Louis days. Look at those.
Well, a little bit white on the tips, but you know what? Yachty can wear whatever he wants, although Major League Baseball does police the attire of these guys on the field. So apparently Major League Baseball says okay with it. I'm all right with it. But I like the fact that he is showing those red old-time socks.
2-0 St. Louis. 2 on, nobody out. There's a base hit to right field. 3-0 St. Louis, and Mazzaro still has not recorded an out.
Well, the Cardinals understand that first innings are the time to get a guy. Whenever he walked the first guy, that was a huge mistake. It took him about 8 pitches to walk him. Then he hit John Jay, base hit, double base hit. You know, you got to stop the bleeding at some point and stay down in that zone and try to roll a double play. That's the best thing, but you got to keep it down. You're going to hit it, try to make him hit it into contact, into some fielders.
The Royals will play their infield back. They'll give up a run to get 2 outs if they can with David Freese up. And he takes low ball 1. Kansas City coming off a splendid 4-2 road trip to St. Louis and Houston. All 4 of their wins were by 2 runs or less. And Freese, who was the hero of the World Series in the playoffs last year, steps to the plate. The Cardinals won the National League wild card with a 90-72 record, clinching in the final day of the regular season after trailing the Braves by 10.5 in August. And Freese was their star in the postseason. MVP of the National League Championship Series and the World Series. Ball 4.
Okay, now you got to wonder what Ned Yost is thinking. Starting pitching's been pretty good for the most part on this road trip. They've done a good job. They haven't had, outside of Bruce Chin's start, haven't had a starter like this in a while. So there's some action in the pen. He's going to get somebody up. You can't afford to try to put pressure on your offense to come back from a big margin when he hasn't gotten an out here in the first inning.
Roman Colon, you saw, started to warm up in the Kansas City bullpen. Has been Mazzaro, coming off a marvelous start in St. Louis, getting knocked around here in the very first inning. He'll face the 7th Cardinal batter and still has not recorded an out. Towards left field. Gordon makes the catch. The runner goes. Throw home, not in time. St. Louis is up 4-0.
Okay, Matt Carpenter, he knows well how to hit with the bases loaded. First pitch is going to be the best one. He sit out for a month, and he gets back, and his first live pitch he sees, he does the job. Gets one elevated, gets a sac fly.
Freese and Molina did not advance because Gordon did keep the throw low, allowing Moustakas a chance to cut it out if he wanted to. So the double play is still in order for Tyler Green.
Although this guy's a really good runner. Now he has grounded into 4, but he'll have to hit one pretty hard at somebody to double him.
Nothing in 1.
But you know, this weather is perfect. I mean, it's not too hot, and it's a slight little breeze blowing. Now, don't know if we'll be able to say that the rest of the weekend. The forecast is to be really hot here this weekend, but it's not any better conditions than you could ever play in than right now.
There is an advantage for any hitter going to left field because there's a cross breeze from the right field foul pole towards the left field foul pole by about 10-15 miles an hour.
Well, we've already seen it affect the game. I mean, that ball that Beltran hit out there to Gordon, it carried, and Gordon didn't think it was going to carry that far when it was hit. Ball just got over his glove.
Beltran, it was RBIs 49 and 50 this year. Got him. Mazzaro with a big strikeout of Tyler Green. So 2 outs now in the first inning.
Okay, there's that slider. Didn't spin, didn't break a whole lot, but it took a little bit of velocity off of it, just enough to fool Green, up and away.
Now here's Skip Schumacher. He came off the disabled list earlier this week. He is one of those guys you can move around the diamond and get a lot of workload. He can play the infield. He can play the outfield. Tonight he is in right field.
But you know, this inning's not over. He's a .500 hitter this year with runners in scoring position. Good level swing, shoots the ball to all fields.
He had been on the disabled list because of a right hamstring problem. The runners go, the pitch is taken for a strike, and they advance easily.
About 7 stolen bases for Yadier Molina, the catcher.
Well, they had a huge jump on Vin Mazzaro, who was concentrating totally on Skip Schumacher. Now he must put him away. Did, with a good breaking ball, and strikes him out. But in the inning, it's a huge first for Vin Mazzaro. And when we come back, a few Hollywood celebrities will give you the Royal batting order.
All right, Royals fans, listen up. We've got Alex Gordon in left field, number 4, leading off tonight. Uni Betancourt, number 11 at second base. And, of course, the great Billy Butler, designated hitter, number 16.
The butt.
The butt.
The butt. Speaking of the butt, what about the Haas? Eric Hosmer. That came out horribly wrong. First base. Over there in right field, everybody's favorite Jeff Francoeur.
Jeff.
Who's eating moussaka out there at third base? None other than Mike Moustakas. Take it.
Take it.
And what about Salvador Perez
What about him?
playing catcher? Lucky number 13. Salvador Perez!
Salvador Perez.
And you got, oh, how do you say this guy's name?
Alcides.
All right.
All sides.
All sides.
Esky.
Escobar
Escobar.
at shortstop.
And out there in center field, you know him. You love him.
You love his vacuums.
You use him to. He cleans the floor.
Jared Dyson.
I thought it was Hoover.
Was it? Not Hoover.
Number 1, playing center field.
That's another. I'm thinking of a different
We
vacuum.
got Dyson in center field. Then, of course, last up, Vin.
Ooh. Italian guy.
Really?
I was going to say Vin Diesel. I was, but
You were trying to work it with Vin Diesel.
I was thinking about it, and I was like, no, I don't want to do it to him.
Going Diesel.
Yeah, it was just a Vin Mazzaro. But no, Vin Diesel Mazzaro on the mound tonight.
Throwing the heat. Triple X.
A big thank you to Rob Riggle and Paul Rudd, Jason Sudeikis, as they gave you that Kansas City batting order. They are from these parts and huge Royals fans. And here is the man they talked about leading off, Alex Gordon from Lincoln, Nebraska.
Well, early in the season, the Royals offense saw a crooked number when they hit first pretty regularly. So they're used to coming from behind. Okay, you know that the Cardinals aren't out of the woods at all. This team has a resiliency about them that they've developed since last year. They don't quit, they attack. So look, that 4-0 lead doesn't mean anything to the young Royals. And they're facing a young pitcher now. They've faced him before, Joe Kelly.
This is just his 3rd major league start. His 2nd was against the Royals in St. Louis. Gordon hits one to short. Foucault has a terrific arm and throws him out. Joe Kelly is a 6'1" right-hander from Corona, California.
Okay, start right where they left off. And speaking of left-handers, they're hitting .414 off of him. Moose is his only blemish as a home run. Now, first roadie First time. Third major league start, first time on the road. We'll see. Go for a second plateful? Why not? The Royals, they're 6-4 when they face pitchers for the second time around. They'd love to get the game one of this series, but they're going to have to do a lot of hitting here off of a guy that has a sinking fastball, mid-90s, curveball, changeup, and a slider. He's got all four.
He had early success against Kansas City. Then the Royals' second time and third time through the order started to get to him. He did receive a no decision in a 10-7 win. There's a base hit up the middle by Yuniesky Betancourt. KC has their first base runner of this game. But Joe Kelly gave up 3 runs in 4 2/3. And now we'll take a look at that St. Louis Ford defense.
All right, John Jay's back there. They're a much better team with this guy in center field. He covers ground and he can really go get him. But Matt Carpenter has spent 30 days out of the game. He had an oblique tear in his rib cage. He said it was terrible before the game. He wasn't sure he was going to even make this team going to spring training. But he found a few injuries and got him some starting time, and he has a natural stroke and a very good first baseman.
Joe Kelly facing Billy Butler, who's back in his designated hitter role. He was either coming off the bench or playing first base, starting against left-handers on the recent road trip in St. Louis and Houston. Off of the pitcher Kelly, it rolls into right field. Betancourt around second on his way to third.
Ouch, that hurt. That got him on the inside of the thigh. And I'm going to tell you, he's not limping now, but that will be a softball-sized bruise in a couple of days. Now, Butler was fortunate. Lots of times when it hits off the pitcher, it can ricochet to a player and he's out. So he's fortunate the ball kicked there. Uni got to go to third. First and third with just one out, and they're checking him. Now, might not have got him on the inside of the back of the thigh. It looked like I got him maybe in the front side, but he's going to try to stay in this game. But hit him pretty squarely. You're better off now while it's warm. You know, the muscles are warm. It's okay. There's blood flowing in the area. If they have a long inning, it's going to tighten up a little bit. That could be the issue.
And for those fans wondering why Rob Riggle, Jason Sudeikis, Paul Rudd, Eric Stonestreet, and so many more were here, it's because they're raising money. BigSlickKC.org. It benefits the Children's Mercy Hospital Cancer Center, an outstanding cause, and that's why those gentlemen are here, making fans and children smile. Eric Hosmer, the batter. Kansas City has runners on the corners with one out. And Eric slices one to left field. That's a base hit. Betancourt comes home. And the Royals on the scoreboard now trailing by 3.
First ball Hackett in the first start in 3 games for Hosmer, who rode the pine for 9. Now he did get in some games, so he wasn't exactly on the pine the whole time. He contributed defensively while he was gone in Houston, but he knew a fastball was coming. Good swing to the opposite field, and happy to see he didn't hit it at somebody.
Here is Jeff Francoeur. The 2 young pitchers have been knocked around early. Great block by Yadier Molina, who's won several Gold Gloves because of his play like that. Frenchie now batting .270 with 5 home runs, but he has been a little colder in June. He has only 1 extra base hit this month after striking 15 in the month of May.
But his average with runners in scoring position has been picking up, and for a run producer, that's a good thing. 233 now. He was 200 for the longest part of the season.
Gordon grounded out, then 3 straight hits by Betancourt, Butler, and Hosmer. took a rip at a pitch that missed down low and inside. Looked like Jeff was looking dead red.
He was, and you know, there was some good sinkage to that pitch there, and it was a perfect spot to put it. 2-0. Frenchie was looking to turn on one.
Kelly works his way back in the count. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Joe posted a 2-5 record with a 2.86 ERA and 12 starts at AAA Memphis before his call up to the Cardinals. St. Louis has lost some starting pitchers, not nearly as badly as Kansas City's situation, but they still have their ace on the DL, Chris Carpenter, although he did pitch today, a side session. That ball is hit well and deep to left field, and that ball is hooking and going foul.
Look at all of the red and blue jerseys. This is the one time you love interleague play, when you have 2 teams from the same state playing. You get the mixture of colors, and they're all excited about this series.
I remember 1985 because that was awfully special when St. Louis and Kansas City hooked up for the World Series, and the Royals were able to knock off the Cards 4-3. Frenchie reached for that one. Very fortunate that he's able to just get underneath and send it back to the screen and stay alive against Joe Kelly. Mazzaro threw 30 pitches, giving up 4 runs in the first inning, and Kelly already has tossed 17 and recorded just 1 out. That's going to be trouble for Caldo. His only play will be first base. They do get Jeff, but the runners move up. Butler to third, Hosmer to second. Now a single could make it a 4-3 game.
Okay, look, if he hits it harder, they're out of the inning, but he hit it soft, so there are runners still out there for Mike Moustakas. Who else? As you hear the Moose calls before he even steps in the batter's box.
And as you talked about, Hud, he's the one guy who got Joe Kelly in that last outing, and Moose took him deep. Ball 1.
Yep, it's the only blemish in the home run department in Joe Kelly's career so far. But you know, Moose doesn't have to take the ball for a drink, although he would like to. Just find a hole and keep the inning alive and be happy. He'd be thrilled with that.
2 balls, no strikes. He had 4 RBIs last Saturday in St. Louis. A single, a double, a home run. He had RBIs in 4 separate at-bats. Talented young hitter with a very good eye. He's just 23 years of age, from Southern California, former first-round draft choice. Didn't like the call from Mike Easterbrook.
No, he thought it was a little low.
It was about calf high.
But I'll tell you, it looks to me like Kelly's being real careful with it.
First base is open. He missed with that pitch because he wanted it low and in, and drifted back over the outside corner of the plate.
Okay, Moose may not get anything good the rest of the time. See if Kelly's going to try to make him swing out of the strike zone. Now, Salvador Perez, awaiting his first at-bat for the 2012 season, is on deck. Moose doesn't have to do it unless he can get him a pitch he can handle.
Just low. And Hud, that was almost the exact same location as the one that Easterbrook called a strike.
Okay, Easterbrook said, okay, we're even, Moose. You didn't, I gave you that one all, but not again. It ain't gonna happen again. So with runners out there, don't get called out looking.
He waves at one that was not a strike, and K's to end the Royal first. Still, they score a run and are now within 3 of St. Louis. The Royals, Fox Sports, and the state of Missouri are teaming up to help you stop smoking now. The state of Missouri Tobacco Quit line. Call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, serving our country. You are on the American Forces Network, and we're being watched by the U.S. military in 175 countries and ships at sea.
Yes, and thank you, men and women, for your service to our country to allow us to talk about the grand game of baseball. We hope you enjoy it. Pick a team. They're both good.
That ball stroked to right field. A base hit for Furcal, so he has been on twice, and Mazzero's struggles continue after allowing 4 runs in the first inning.
Redbirds hit around. Nothing better than that if you're an offensive player. You'd love to come to the plate the second inning after getting an at-bat in the first inning.
The last time Kansas City met Furcal, he was coming out of a slide. He was like in an 0 for 23 slide and didn't do too much damage against Kansas City in St. Louis. Here is John Jay, former All-American at the University of Miami, fouls off the first offering.
Well, Furcal feels good. He feels better, and it's the perfect time for him to get healthy, as he is one of the top vote getters for the National League All-Star team at shortstop. He overtook Tulowitzki, who's been injured for the Colorado Rockies.
Again, Mazzero having a difficult time getting that ball down. And St. Louis, we told you their offensive prowess, first in batting, second in runs, third in home runs, but they've also hit into the most double plays this year, 58. And that's exactly what Mazzero would like, trying to keep Furcal close.
I mean, a little bit of a home run drought too. They didn't hit any in Detroit.
Past Hosmer into right field. Furcal will make it to third.
Well, but Mazzero, he's not fooling anybody, that's for sure. But his sinker is not sinking. It's up around the belt and hittable.
So Roman Colon will get up for another time as we take a look at this Mazda replay.
Ball's right up. It started in. The movement brought it over the middle.
Dangerous hitter in Matt Holliday. Singled his first time up. He has 43 RBIs this year, and he knocks that one foul.
Jay, he'll run. He was on the disabled list for a bruised shoulder as he crashed into the wall earlier in the season, but his legs are fine. He's got 4 stolen bases on the year.
Holliday pops it up, shallow center field. Dyson still coming on and makes the catch. So one big out. Be a part of the All-Star action this summer in Kansas City by coming out to the Taco Bell All-Star Sunday here at the ballpark on Sunday, July 8th, for 2 exciting events and a spectacular fireworks show to end the evening. The Sirius XM All-Star Futures game features the next generation of Major League stars from the minor leagues. And come see Hall of Famers, Royals legends, and your favorite celebrities in the Taco Bell All-Star Legends and Celebrity Softball Game. Tickets are available now at allstargame.com or by calling 1-888-FANFEST. Mazzaro misses badly with a breaking ball away from Carlos Beltran, who doubled his first time up. You see those numbers, outstanding. 19 home runs, 50 RBIs. He's in the top 5 in those 2 power categories. Foul ball. He is second to Ryan Braun in home runs. Ryan of Milwaukee has 20 and Beltran with 19. And the 2 RBIs gave him 50 that he collected in inning number 1. Andre Ethier of the Dodgers leads the National League with 55. And of course, Josh Hamilton leads the entire major leagues in RBIs with 64, that Texas Ranger outfielder. Ripped to right center. This could score 2 more. It will make it 6-1. And what a return to Kansas City for Carlos Beltran. 4 RBIs in the first 2 innings of his first game back.
If you throw a ball like that, a cookie down the middle to the best hitter and one of the best hitters in baseball, it's going to get raked. Ned Yost says, you know what? I've seen enough of this. Mazzaro definitely was not on.
And with the injury suffered by Felipe Paulino, the Royals starting pitching is in dire straits. Here's our Chevy call to the bullpen.
Royals Cardinals tomorrow starting at 12:30 on Fox Sports Kansas City.
St. Louis has knocked out Vin Mazzaro, and fans, the 3rd installment of T-Shirt Tuesday is on June 26th against the Tampa Bay Rays. The first 10,000 fans will receive a vintage powder blue Royals T-shirt presented by Farmland. Gates open at 5:30, so get there early. Go to Royals.com/T-Shirt Tuesday or call 1-800-6-ROYALS for tickets. Great crowd on hand, and right now they are enjoying the Cardinals' success, not Kansas City's. But perhaps like '85, the Royals will come back. Roman Colon comes out of the bullpen. This is what he did last Saturday against St. Louis. Veteran right-hander out of the Dominican Republic will face Yadier Molina. Ball 1.
All right, fastball, slider, split finger. Those are his keys. His pitches anyway. His keys are to keep the ball down and get out of this inning and just try to shut this Redbirds offense down any further. Scoring a lot of runs. 4 in the first and 2 so far in the second. Man, they're taking advantage of some badly located pitches.
Rex, I wanted to get your thoughts on losing Felipe Paulino, and very likely for the year. Looks like he might need Tommy John surgery after he pitched on Wednesday, and the staff thought he would be coming back next week. Here's a base hit to right field. Beltran will be held at third base, so the hitting continues for St. Louis. But that is a big loss because Felipe Paulino had an ERA that was under 2, and he was rock solid almost every single start.
Well, I was shocked by the news when I got to the ballpark. I was shocked, and really that was out of nowhere. We thought, his groin was going to be healed, and we didn't have any idea there was any arm issues, but certainly that is a big blow. I mean, the other guys, he's the 4th one in the organization to have the procedure if it is indeed going to happen. But that's a big blow. They're going to have to try to find another pitcher somewhere, somehow. Whether it's through their minor league system or consummating a deal, or, they weren't counting on that.
They do not want to interrupt the timetable. Jake Odorizzi is one of their top pitching prospects, but they still want him to get his work in and get his pitch count down. In Omaha, even though he's had marvelous success, he has thrown a lot of pitches in 5 to 6 innings. That's part of the maturation of a young pitcher. Ripped to left field. Fair ball. Beltran scores. Molina coming home, and he will score. So the hit parade continues for St. Louis as they're tearing apart Kansas City pitching early and often.
It's almost like the Cardinals came in saying, you know what, you really hurt our feelings when you were at our place last weekend. And now we're going to stay within ourselves, but we're going to get you back. And Freese wasn't sure when he hit this ball, as he didn't really take off out of the box. He thought it was going to hook foul, but it didn't. Stayed fair by a half a foot and matched their 4 spot they put up in the first.
You can close the book on Vin Mazzaro. He gave up 7 runs in an inning and a third. A week separated from his last start against St. Louis, where he shut out the Cardinals for 6 innings. Here is Matt Carpenter, who struck a sacrifice fly his first time up.
You know, we talked about Carpenter with that rib cage injury, and we've been seeing a lot of major league players and minor leaguers go out with those type of injuries to the rib cage. And I asked Carpenter before the game.
Base hit right field.
Why are so many guys going out with that? And he said, well, my opinion is that we hit all the time in the cage, and if you're a left-handed hitter like he is, your one side gets stronger than the other. And so he says it's fatigue, and then when it rips, it rips. He asked me if I ever had one. I said no. It's hard to get one of those when you only have a 70-foot bat and you can never get in a game. But he said, I said, how do you fix that? How do you not go on the DL with one of those again? He says he uses a medicine ball and he acts like he's hitting right-handed.
Meantime, St. Louis trying to get healthy. This is Chris Carpenter, with one of the great right-handers in the last decade, and he threw at 2 o'clock this afternoon. And they're hoping to get him back right around the All-Star break, a little bit after.
But good signs.
St. Louis came in just 4 games back of the National League Central lead with Cincinnati, and there is a foul ball struck to the left side. And the Royals, despite still not hitting on all cylinders, they're only 4.5 games out in the American League Central behind the Cleveland Indians. The White Sox have been struggling a little bit lately, losing 7 of their last 10, while Cleveland only going 5-5. Jumped over Chicago for first in the Central. Mazzaro knocked out, giving up 7 runs in 1 1/3 innings. Center field, deep. Dyson won't get there. Wow. Two more score. 4 in the first, 6 in the second, and they're not done yet.
Everything in baseball is contagious, good and bad. And good hitting is as equally contagious as bad hitting. And when they're finding holes and putting some good swings on, and they're hot and everything's going in, it's contagious. So now they're going to hit the second time through the order in consecutive innings. Batting practice has broken out here at the K, and the Cardinals are feasting all over it.
They sent 9 to the plate in the first. This is the 9th to come to the plate in the second, and still only 1 man out with a runner on second base.
10-0. Or excuse me, 1. Wow. No one would have written this up.
And Royals general manager Dayton Moore has had to go through that I-29 roller coaster all season long, particularly when a starter has been knocked out early and a middle reliever has to come in and give the team a lift. There is a swing and a miss, and down goes Schumacher, and he is the only Cardinal not to join the party. He has struck out twice.
Cologne going with the breaking ball. Go ahead. Starts out about belt high. Ends up in the dirt. Would have been, but Salvi's glove was there.
Furcal has been on twice. There's a chopper right back to Cologne, who will make the play. And finally, the nightmarish second inning is over. In the inning, St. Louis scores 6 times. We'll see Salvi's first at bat and the bigs this year when we come back. That young lady is Jenny Burkhead, and she has been an advocate for the YMCA of Greater Kansas City's Challenger program since the program started in 2005. Jenny serves on the advisory board and chairs the Cheer for Challengers fundraising event, raising hundreds of thousands of dollars to help build the first adaptive baseball field in Kansas City. Great job, Jenny, who is from KC and works as a real estate agent by day, but finds her true joy helping children with special needs.
Oh, Jenny, a woman after my own heart for sure. Love what you can do for those kids with disabilities. Way to fight for them. Way to build them a field they can play ball just like other kids.
How about Salvi Perez? First at bat in the bigs in 2012 as a Royal, and he smacks a single up the middle.
Okay, now 10-1. You're watching something here we really haven't seen quite a deficit this large early in the game in a long time. Now, this could really look good for the Kansas City Royals to peck away and come back and get in this. So look, even though they're down by a lot, it's early in this game. Let's see these young guys that have a knack for not giving up, what they can do. Can they come back on them? I mean, that's a lot of runs to come back on a world championship team.
We saw that earlier this week against the Houston Astros, where the Royals were down 9-2 as late as the 9th inning. And then they strung 8 straight singles together and had the winning run on the bases before Moustakas popped up to end it. Royals only lost 9-7, and there is a blue base hit to center field. So Escobar comes through. You know, it's about putting quality at bats together.
That's exactly what it's all about. And talking with Kevin Seitzer before today's game, he told me he's trying to get some of his hitters to detox their mind. Let all the thinking go and go up there and react. Don't worry about where your hand position is, where you're standing, what the certain county is going to throw a certain pitch. Just let it all go. Eliminate the thinking. Just react.
Remember that line by Royals Hall of Famer George Brett about thinking? He said, "I'm not thinking about seeing the ball, I'm seeing the ball."
That's right. Less thinking. Relax and be aggressive.
Low.
And that's one of the things that Gordon's been doing so well these past couple weeks. Sure, he's in a comfortable position of leadoff, but he's been relaxed. He's reacting.
Gerard Dyson's back to seeing a lot of pitches recently. He had walked in 6 straight games, and now he punches that one into the hole, and they'll go to third. They get the force there, so Perez is out.
Yeah, this is a smart play by Furcal. There's no way you're going to get anybody else. Maybe at second base on a turn throw, but ball took him that way. That's a veteran play. No need to try to do too much. Get it over there to Freeze. Get the force out there as easy as any other base. But you weren't going to get Escobar or Dyson at second or first.
2 on, 1 out for Alex Gordon, who grounded out to short his first time up. Alex came in batting .349 his last 10 games to raise his average to .258. He had been down in the 240s, and that's not like him. Hit .303 last year when he was named the Royals Player of the Year. 2 balls and no strikes. Let's take a look at our Time Warner pitch speeds. Get downloads up to 50 megabits per second with Time Warner Cable Ultimate Internet. Kelly at his top fastball 96 miles an hour, and Cologne also has touched 96. Three balls and no strikes to Gordon.
That's not a sinker ball there. That's a 4-seam fastball. So we're seeing 96, 94, 96. Typically that's too hard for a sinker ball, or the ball doesn't have time to sink. But he's mixing in both. They call that 4-seam fastball and 2-seam fastballs.
Strike across against Alex, who is taking all the way.
And you're a young guy making your first road start, and in that start your team goes out and drops a 4 and a 6 spot in the first 2 innings to get a 10-1 lead. You should be doing nothing but pounding that strike zone and challenging the hitters.
Gordon to center field. Jay keeps going back, makes the catch. Escobar tags at second base. He's off for third, but Dyson stayed put at first base. So now first and third with 2 outs in the second inning. It's Miller time, and certainly Unieski Bencourt was the man who delivered the brew last week in the 15th inning when he blasted a 2-run home run, and Kansas City knocked off St. Louis in the final game of that 3-game series 5-3. Brought the drama in the 14th as well, giving KC the lead.
You know, Gordon crushed it. Yeah, but here's Betancourt right here. Huge home run. Biggest one of the year so far.
You were talking about thinking and hitting, and Betancourt actually used it in a positive way. As the pitch is low and outside, Dyson will take second base. Rex, I say that because Unieski was facing the same pitcher he faced in the 14th inning when he doubled off him, and he said, I doubled on a slider, and I knew I wasn't going to see a slider again, so I was sitting dead red and got the pitch I wanted.
And, you know, he knows how to hit. They have him in there because he's an offensive threat at the plate. Good hitter.
St. Louis with 4 in the first, 6 in the second. Joe Kelly, the rookie pitcher, the recipient of all this St. Louis offense.
Okay, I'm not going to let him swing 3-0 because Billy Butler's hitting behind him. Go ahead and let him walk you.
Strike.
Make him throw another one in there. Your leading home run hitter is on deck, and let him do it. Now, it looked like this might have been a little low. Betancourt thought it was, but he might be swinging here, though. You can't ask a good hitter like this to take 3-1 with 2 runners on out there.
To third, David Freese. Kansas City gets a pair of base hits early but does not score, and Joel will come back with our celebrities in the 3rd inning at Kauffman Stadium.
Oh shit, we shouldn't have this.
Welcome back to Kauffman Stadium, and we are here with all the guys, as we are every single year. Rally Cap is going for Jason Sudeikis already. Jason Sudeikis, Paul Rudd, Rob Riggle, Big Slick Wiffle Ball Tournament, a success, raising a lot of great money, as you always do, for Children's Mercy. Hey, can anybody change the luck? Is that all it takes?
I hope so. This is all I can do. This is all I can do from out here.
No
I talked to you earlier about that. I'm not changing this until inning 5.
I know.
All right, because we got to ration out the rally hats.
I'm trying to get creative thunder sticks brought in.
Creative thunder sticks.
Yeah.
Creative thunder sticks.
Not just normal?
No, a crate of thunder sticks.
Crate, I'm sorry.
A crate of creative thunder
Okay,
sticks.
sorry about that.
Different colors and different noises.
You can draw on them whatever design you want. I want people to be creative.
Like
when
Kaleidoscope
when
down
they
in
hurt
Hallmark.
their neighbor's eardrums.
Rob, you can make this happen, right? I mean, you're big, you're tough, you're loud.
Consider it done. Consider it done. And I'm actually willing to streak the field in the 7th inning.
Necessary.
I
Don't need it.
I think it might rally.
I don't know if that's
It might turn the worm around, my friends.
Turn the worm?
That's a horrible turn of phrase.
Oh, right. I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
It's going to turn the worm inside out.
What just happened?
We have an out. That's good.
All right.
You know, there was a streaker. Speaking of St. Louis, wait, here's.
Oh, wow.
It was a single. I'm sorry. Here's John Hamm, though.
Going good? Game's going good, right?
It's not over yet.
Good
It's
game?
not over yet, Mr. Ham.
No, I'm not saying it is. I'm just good game. Good game, guys. Good.
Wait, John, before you leave, John Hamm, a diehard Cardinal fan, and well, one, he didn't want to talk about the number 5 over on that team. We can get to that later. But he was just talking, Rob, about streaking, and I believe there was a recent streaking incident at your home stadium, Busch Stadium.
It was not me. Let's make that very clear.
Okay.
I was out of town. I was out of the country.
Who was it?
I think we all know who it was.
Tommy?
It was Tommy.
It was Tommy. Darn it.
Tommy who?
Tommy Fillmore.
Tommy
You know
Fillmore.
Tommy.
We've known Tommy for years.
Oh, old TF?
TF.
TF likes getting his kid off.
Yeah.
Getting on the field.
Yeah.
Rolling around.
That's right. I think he put the Busch in Busch Stadium.
Wow. Did you? Yeah, I guess you did. Our sprint poll question of the night pertains to your wiffle ball game, and so that's why, John, I wanted you to be here too. Favorite wiffle ball moment of the game, and we're going to have the fans vote on this. Choice A is Kroll's climbing catch.
Yeah.
Climbed the fence, right? He didn't catch it, but he climbed the fence.
He sure climbed it, yeah.
He climbed it, so that's something.
Let's take that into account when we vote. Seriously.
There was not a climb. All right, next.
But John Hamm is next. Just as John Hamm on the mound, I don't know if that's mound presence or just everything you did. Or
Feeling it was because I did, in fact, pitch an entire inning without spilling a drop of beer and make a play.
But you gave up the game winner.
Who won the game again?
The blue team. The blue team.
Still.
Let's take that into account when we vote.
Yeah.
Right.
my choice is for Paul Rudd, who made a diving catch. I didn't see it, but I'm told it was a diving catch as opposed to climbing the fence.
It's definitely diving.
It was diving.
And it was a catch.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty spectacular. Not everybody, and I don't mean to toot my own horn,
Yeah.
can dive, roll, and stumble over themselves for a routine infield pop.
I'll be honest.
fly.
I'll be honest. It seemed like a lot of effort for a pop-up infield.
It was
fly.
It was a long run race. It was
play
a
look
long
hard.
race for a small trophy.
It was a game changer. It changed momentum for the next 20 minutes.
And you know what? I'd like the voters to take that into
We
All
should
right.
take
Duly
into
noted.
account.
Duly noted.
the only one that actually really
Existed.
happened.
It really did. It really actually did. It is something.
Yes.
You can vote on that one because it actually is something.
Hey, we're seeing the trophy. It's actually a decent-sized trophy.
Vote for that. Vote for
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Vote for me then, please.
Oh, no, the trophy for the. Wait, for this?
Well, whatever. No, yeah, whatever.
The World Series trophy that the Cardinals won last year?
Oh boy, here we go. Here we
That is
go.
a great trophy. Have you guys seen
We're
it?
going to squeeze in. We're going to squeeze in.
I haven't been in one of these jobs.
What's that?
While we have all of you here, how about how people can text in and get involved?
This is a great thing that if people go to their phones and text, which is what everybody's doing now these days, if they text 50555,
They text 055.
that's right.
Either Cards or Royals.
Cards or Royals, 50555, and we'll even tell you more about it when we come back for the bottom of the
Make a
third.
$5 donation. Thank you.
It's not Don Cheadle. It's Don Cheadle.
Back at Kauffman Stadium for the bottom of the third. We have one more guest joining us right now, Eric Stonestreet, also a Kansas City native and the star, one of the many stars of Modern Family, and
Also the star of tonight's wiffle ball game at the big.
game-winning home run. What happened there?
Talk
what
us through it,
happened?
talk us
yeah,
through
well,
it.
what happened is I had gone yard in batting practice at the wiffle ball game, and I think Coach Riggle really realized that when the game was on the line, it was up to me to.
Rob Hubel's
really unprofessional.
doing chin-ups.
The game was on the line. It was up to me to win the game for Blue.
And you did it. You came through in
And I did
splendid
it.
fashion.
And, you know, like I say, there's players, and then there's game time players.
Yeah, yeah.
I happen to be sore right now.
And
yeah.
I actually saw you warming up on the field here today with I think an invisible or imaginary baseball.
Yeah, I was warming up with an imaginary baseball today.
a ball of energy.
It was an improv ball.
It was an improv
We
ball.
couldn't get a ball, so we improvised catch.
Yeah, it was great, great. He got you in the right headspace.
Just say you made some spectacular ones.
Eric, how about a chance for you to join these guys here, local cause, and obviously a lot of money being raised?
Oh, well, you know, this is the first year that I've been able to come. They wouldn't let me come any of the other years.
You had to be vetted.
Yeah, I had to be vetted.
Yeah.
You know,
We had to check out your Facebook page, your Twitter.
I really wanted to come last year, and I couldn't come. And then this year, I just made it a priority because it is such a good event. It raises money for a worthy cause, and I love coming home and surrounding it with baseball and how, you know, the great fans of Kansas City, and it's really cool that, you know, 4 guys that are kind of the same age doing this kind of same thing in a town that can come back and spend some time here is really cool.
Could somebody remind us again before I run out of outs and we head to a commercial exactly how people can text and how to, you had all kinds of number combinations going on before.
This is the thing. I mean, as great as this event is for us and as fun as as much fun as we have, it's really about these kids and about Children's Mercy Hospital. And one of the things we're doing this year is that if you text to 50555, if you text Royals or Cards, either one, it makes a $5 donation.
To Children's Mercy Hospital, which does amazing work.
50555.
All right. We already have the results, by the way, to our sprint. You call it. Paul Rudd is the winner with 48% of the vote.
Of what? What'd you win?
Diving catch.
Of what?
Play of the game.
Oh,
See, I don't.
what?
I think.
How is me not winning the game?
I just want to say thank you to the voting public. The polls have closed. I want to.
I think we got to go.
This is ridiculous.
There's some sort of.
Continue amongst yourselves. It's been fun. I know you brawled and everything.
Look, it was.
I'll let you guys
It was
play.
a web jam.
It went by 2 points.
It was a web jam.
Back in a bit with more.
Well, we've made a bit of a trade between the Cardinals and Royals. We did this last week. Rex Hudler went to the St. Louis broadcast booth, and Al Roboski, who pitched for the Royals back in the late 70s, moved from the Cardinals to the Royals. Al, welcome. I know you were here with Kansas City in 78 and 79. What do you think?
Well, I enjoyed myself, and I thought it was a beautiful ballpark then, and it's even more magnificent now.
They really did a fantastic job. And here is a ball struck by David Freese, and Jeff Francoeur will make the catch, and David is the first out of the 5th inning. And Al, when you walked in, you said, my goodness, you guys are terrific hosts.
Well, I mean, you were kind of mean to us in St. Louis, and now you kind of knew the Cardinals were having trouble scoring runs, so you were gracious enough to spot us a few.
4 runs for St. Louis in the 1st and 6 more in the 2nd inning. David Freese flies out to right field, and now Matt Carpenter comes to the plate. Well, Al Roboski pitched for the Royals in 78 and 79, and you've been calling Cardinal baseball the last 28 seasons, and you have seen some winning campaigns.
I have been so fortunate because the Cardinals during that time have.
There's a base hit to left field for Carpenter, and he's 2 for 2 with a sacrifice fly.
Made 5 appearances in World Series play.
Yeah.
And winning not only in 06, but winning last season the 11th World Championship in their illustrious history. Nice to see Carpenter back in the lineup as well as John Jay. Cardinals really staying on the ball as they. One theme tonight is they've been hitting the ball the opposite field. It's their 12th hit, and obviously when you bat around in the first couple innings, it's a good sign.
Now Tyler Crean, the batter, who's an All-American at Georgia Tech, outstanding player. He has struck out and doubled in 2 runs in this ball game. And now you were with the Royals in their glory years, particularly the late 70s when Brett and McRae were leading the offense, and Frank White as well, and that pitching staff was outstanding, and you were part of a very, very strong bullpen. That ball gets through the legs of Salvi Perez, who will move Carpenter to 3rd base. But you were there when you saw this team start climbing in the American League West.
Well, it was very interesting. You might ask Whitey, you talk about that bullpen, he would say, had Hungo, Mingo, Bird, and the Duck. And he wasn't sure.
You're going to have to explain who each one of those is.
Well, I was Hungo. That was a nickname that Joe Torre gave me. Mingo was Steve Bengori. The Bird, Marty Patton, the Duck was Marty Patton, and then Doug Bird was the Bird. But, you know, isn't it interesting? You talk about, what, 4 guys in the bullpen, and now we talk about 7 and 8 relievers. But with a DH, you would have a sometimes 8 to 9-man pitching staff.
Green pops it up, shallow right field. Betancourt will make the catch for the second out of the 5th inning.
I know both these ball clubs have been struggling scoring runs, and the Cardinals a little perplexing in the fact that they lead the National League in batting average, slugging percentage, on base percentage, second in runs. Might have gone over back into first place, but recently we've been, you know, really averaging 2 runs per game, and then we'll have a game like this every so often that really keeps that, you know, nearly 6 runs per game average.
Here in the 4th inning, Kansas City trailing by 9 runs. And what's interesting, Al, is the Royals have played very well. I mean, so much was expected of their offense, but here in the month of June, Kansas City has 6 wins where they scored 2 runs or less. That ties for the most wins in a calendar month by an American League team over the last 40 years.
This is a good young ball club. It's just unfortunate that the Royals are not playing their best baseball at home. And I guess that first homestand that was disastrous, 0-10. You know, it's hard to recover from that, but I would recommend the fans to come out and watch this club, because there's a lot of talent here. They're doing things the right way with a very strong farm system. Seems like Ned Yost and his coaching staff are very good teachers. They have the patience, and hopefully the fans will have the patience with them.
They've gone 28 and 22 since that 12-game losing streak. 10 games at home you talked about. Roman Colon is going to have to give his bullpen some innings so they don't get to the hard workers, and that ball struck down the line. That is a base hit. Schumacher comes through for the first time. He doubles in one more to make it an 11-1 St. Louis lead.
Mentioned Colon, and he does have a chance to save that bullpen and pitch some innings. Hosmer off the line, and ball bouncing right over the bag, staying fair. Skip, who had a rough night with a couple strikeouts, now he strikes and drives in his 13th run. Schumacher's been on the disabled list twice this season. I know the Cardinals are getting a little healthier as they got John Jay and Matt Carpenter back tonight, but injuries are a part of it, and the Royals have had their share also.
Felipe Paulino could be the 4th Royal to undergo Tommy John surgery this year alone. The Tommy John surgery came up in your era back in the 1970s. Not that many pitchers had the surgery. Why so many now, Al?
I had the conversation with Drayton today. You know, he was asking me about some of it, and I saw Tommy John, who the surgery is named after. Isn't that interesting? But he was the very first. They had to almost invent the instruments, the medical instruments. Now they have created all these new high-tech instruments, and it's arthroscopic. But Steve Busby, great Cardinal, or great Royal, 2-time no-hitter, was the first to ever go through the Tommy John surgery, the non-arthroscopic, the very first one other than Tommy John. And I'm sorry, he had rotator cuff. He had the first rotator cuff from a pitcher, and Biff Pocoroba had the first one from a player. But you know, it's just the technology that today, there's almost some clubs almost prefer you to have that surgery at a young age and get it over with. Because if you rehab correctly, and most guys do, that they can come back even stronger.
The count is 3-1 to Furcal, who takes it up high for ball 4. So he has been on base 3 times with a pair of walks and a base hit. As a matter of fact, you'd love the young man that was hurt earlier this year, Danny Duffy, throws 98 miles an hour and then blows out his elbow. He has had the Tommy John surgery, and they're talking about a year to more likely 18 months for his recovery. But there was another left-hander with Kansas City last year by the name of John Lamb. Had similar surgery, and he is now back throwing on the mound, not competitively yet.
Well, and that reminds us of Adam Wainwright, who Adam Wainwright went early in last year's spring training, needed the surgery, and then he came back and was pitching, you know, at opening day. Now he's not fully recovered, and most guys are successfully pitching at about 19 months, where Wainwright was like at 12 months, and now even now is starting to get closer and closer, you know, where he's about in his 15th month of recovery.
There is a strike to John Jay, and we'll see Adam Wainwright tomorrow afternoon against Luis Mendoza as Kelvin Herrera starts to warm up in the Royals bullpen. But Kansas City might have to make a call to Omaha after this one, after Vin Mazzaro only went an inning and a third and gave up 7 runs.
Well, it might be a Mitch Myers game too.
Exactly.
Which is always a fun time. And
I want you to know, he's pitched 2 games.
Oh yeah, I know.
He has a 0.00 ERA.
Jerry Terrell in 78 and 79 was our infielder that would pitch in blowout games, and Jerry Terrell did a fine job. Sometimes in a game like this, it's what a ball club needs.
Well, there is Mitch Meyer right now watching it. He's probably charting the game right now to see what pitches he's going to work on them late.
And of course, Ned Yost would make that decision very late in this ball game, hoping that his offense, you know, can come back and make a game of it.
Well, it is interesting. The game he pitched earlier this year, it was basically 75-mile-an-hour fastballs, and the batters were getting themselves out. Meantime, there's a ground ball struck to the second baseman Betancourt. St. Louis is done in the 4th inning. Moustakas, Perez, and Escobar will be coming up. Royals baseball is brought to you by your Midwest Ford dealer. By Steel. Find a helpful servicing Steel dealer. Visit steeldealers.com. And by AT&T, the world's largest 4G network. AT&T, rethink possible. Here at Kauffman Stadium, the St. Louis Cardinals with a huge 11-1 lead over the Kansas City Royals. Steve Biziak with Al Roboski as Rex has gone over to the Fox Sports St. Louis booth with Ricky Horton. And Al has joined me here. Al, of course, with the Royals in 78 and 79, and coming way inside, and Mike Moustakas gets hit by a pitch, so the leadoff man is on. And the batter will be Salvi Perez.
You don't want to walk a man, or you don't want to hit a man when you got a big lead, especially a leadoff man, and that's the case what Kelly did. I was really looking forward to seeing Salvador Perez.
Well, here he is, and Ned Yost called him the best catching prospect he has ever seen, and that was when he was 21 last year, coming up and played in just 35 games.
Ned told me in St. Louis that he looked at Perez and reminded him a lot of Yadier Molina, who has won 4 straight Gold Gloves. Last year he was the best of the Gold Glove winners, won the first Platinum Award from Rawlings. And he said that they're comparable defensively. He feels that Perez is now better than Yadi was at 21, or he's now turned 22, but that's pretty high praise when you talk about the respect that baseball has for Yadier Molina.
Ned doesn't toss superlatives around quite easily, and when he said that back in spring training, I'm thinking, wow, if Ned Yost would say that, he means it. And then he said, Steve, for a guy who was 21 who could get with the pitchers, understand the game plan, and then go and transfer it during the game, that told me a lot.
And that is a very difficult attribute for a young catcher, and that is what the Cardinal pitchers feel like. They have the supreme confidence in Molina, and that's what Yed was saying about Perez and his ability to
That ball is drilled to left, and welcome back, Salvi Perez. Al, even if the Royals lose this ball game and they're down by a bundle to St. Louis, Royal fans are encouraged by that.
Well, they should be. You know, Jeff Montgomery, and you know what the great closer Jeff was, he made a comparison. He said, I will look at Perez and see Johnny Bench. Wow. Now, I'm not sure I'm going to see Johnny Bench, but I just see something that reminded me of Johnny Bench, the catcher hitting a home run.
You betcha.
And this ball running in on him, and he just drops the bat head, opens up the hips, and you see how quick he is to the ball. So he got a little late start in 2012, but he's making up for it.
Well, we told you the Royals have played well since that terrible 12-game losing streak, and they have one of the best winning percentages in baseball. The New York Yankees are at the very top, and here are your Toyota League leaders. The Yankees with a winning percentage of over 60, followed by the Angels, the Reds, the Red Sox, and how about that? Kansas City at 56%, despite the fact, Al, that they have lost Danny Duffy for the season, Felipe Paulino for the season, Joaquim Soria, their closer for the season, and Blake Wood, Lorenzo Cain has not played since the very first week. Their talented center fielder, or Chris Getz, the second baseman, has been on the DL twice. That's a lot to lose.
It is, and Ned Yost and the young Royals are not going to use that as an excuse, but you can see that if they're healthy, they would be that much better. And I'm sure it'll turn around as the season progresses, but they'll start playing better at home. They've got the road conquered.
Holiday comes in, takes care of Escobar for the very first out.
Now they're playing very good baseball on the road, and that's a real key. And really for young ball clubs, because I see a lot of times they go on the road, they're not disciplined, they throw away a lot of games, and obviously they respect their manager. We saw Ned, I saw Ned all the years that he was on Bobby Cox's staff.
Dyson pops up for the second out.
When he managed in Milwaukee, he did a fine job there. So I think they're in very good shape here, and it seems like your farm system keeps on producing also.
Kevin Seitzer does a great job with the hitters, and Dave Island has done a wonderful job in spite of all the injuries suffered by the pitching staff. I mean, they came in with a starting rotation ERA of 4.8 and a bullpen ERA of 2.9. There's Kevin, the hitting instructor, who is a terrific hitter in his day, as Alex Gordon steps to the plate.
Can't make excuses at this level, and good managers they'll dwell on what they have and not what they don't have. They'll get those guys back, and then they can rave about them and know that they'll be there to help them. But you just kind of collectively pull your belt straps a little bit, look in the mirror, say, what more can I do to make myself and our team a winning player? I saw enough last weekend to tell you that they're going in the right direction.
Yeah, your partner Ricky Horton told me before the game, he said, you know what surprised me? They play a National League style. And he said, Ned Yost's team beat us playing National League baseball.
I really did. I thought that, you know, Escobar, when Loesch didn't pay attention to him and he stole third, and it resulted in a run. Little things that they did. They outplayed the Cardinals, and maybe the Cardinals they couldn't respond last weekend. Maybe they took a little note and want to get a little bit of revenge. But whatever happens in this game, the momentum is only as good as tomorrow afternoon's starting pitcher. Right now, the Cardinals are having a lot of problems in their bullpen. You know, most of the time you say a team goes as they're starting pitching. Well, that hadn't been the case for the Cardinals.
Base hit up the middle for Alex Gordon. That is his first knock of the game.
At least the Cardinals are not walking him this game.
Yeah, he had that one game where he tied the Royal record with 5 walks in one game, and that was his personal best. We're in the 4th inning. 11-3. St. Louis has the advantage over Kansas City. That's the bad news. The good news is Salvi Perez is back in the starting lineup, and he is 2 for 2. There's Yuniesky Betancourt, who singled and scored the first run back in the first. Knocked home by Eric Hosmer.
Betancourt always seemed like he hit the Cardinals well. And then you think about the 15-inning game on Sunday. He started that game on the bench. Gets hurt. He goes 0 for 5. Then he knocks in, breaks the tie in the 14th. Yadier got the base hit to tie it, and then he said, I'm getting tired, and I'll end it with a 2-run home run in the 15th. I think we were ready to end it too. That was 5 hours of torturous baseball.
Well, they said the guys went into the clubhouse and just kind of sat down, and they were just absolutely exhausted. But both sides competed and made some mistakes because it was a hot Sunday afternoon. And yet at the very end, I remember a quote from Jeff Francoeur where he said, I have nothing left. 5-hour game on a hot Sunday afternoon. Betancourt with the game winner.
He said it wouldn't be an instructional film, that game, but it became an entertaining baseball at the end, and I know the Royal fans were a little happier than the Cardinal fans.
Freese has it and gets the force at second base. We told you the good news is Salvi Perez is back. He's 2 for 2, including his first big fly of the year. A drive to left. Cardinals by 8. Join us at the ballpark on Monday, June 25th for Water Awareness Night. The first 10,000 fans will receive a reusable Royals water bottle presented by Grundfos. The Royals take on the Tampa Bay Rays at 7:10. You can get tickets by going to Royals.com or calling 1-800-6-ROYALS. Ooh, Roman Colon went up and over the head of the St. Louis Cardinals slugger Matt Holliday.
Do not believe there is any intent, and I didn't even meant a breaking ball. I was just so engaged in that water bottle, you know.
Holliday, you see his strong numbers with 12 home runs and 43 RBIs.
Matt got off to a real slow start. Very uncharacteristic for him. Had a great May, and now you see those numbers, 286. He is not a really power hitter. He is a line drive hitter, hits for a high average, and because he's so strong, he'll hit his share of home runs.
Great athlete from Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Quarterback.
Tremendous quarterback who was recruited by Oklahoma State.
Well, he kind of had some ties there. His dad was the baseball coach. Matter of fact, when he was a youngster, there was a pretty good baseball player out of Oklahoma State, used to babysit him. Robin Ventura.
Pretty good. All-American, all-time.
Yeah. Golden Spikes winner.
And Holliday will work the walk. So not a good start for Colon. Roman has thrown 51 pitches. Remember, he had to come on with just 1 out in the second inning after Mazzaro gave up 7 runs in an inning and a third. So Dave Island will make that phone call to the bullpen.
Gave up 4 consecutive hits.
Tim Collins has jumped up, and here's a guy who's like you, Al. Outstanding stuff. Power fastball. He is 6 feet 8 inches tall, exactly. But where he generates that kind of velocity at 5 feet 6 inches tall, I have no idea.
It's your legs. Now the lower half, the legs, the buttocks have a great flexibility in his wrist.
Carlos Beltran, the batter. He told me that when he graduated from high school in New England, he was 120 pounds and threw 82 miles an hour.
But that was ringing wet.
Exactly. He has improved that velocity by 13 miles an hour. And he wasn't drafted. He was signed by the Blue Jays, of course acquired by the Royals, and has become.
Now, he was drafted by someone that had pretty good influence, J.P. Richard.
Exactly.
So that kind of allowed him. J.P. ended up being the general manager there, and so he had a little influence and to get him to move up. But in one sense, you know, he stood out, being so small.
All he did was win.
There's something about that. I always look at guys in the minor leagues and they don't win, and
it should be 2. It is. Well, Tim Collins is one of those guys you hope the manager will select for the All-Star game, because he does have terrific numbers, and the fan vote to pick the starters for this year's All-Star game in Kansas City is almost over. Make sure you vote for all of your favorite Royals players. Play your part by going to Royals.com/vote to crown a Royal. And with Kansas City, we're talking Mike Moustakas to vote for, Billy Butler, very deserving of that honor. But the manager is going to have to pick a guy like Tim Collins.
And it is nice to see non-closers being selected.
Yeah.
To where now a lot of times you'll find more setup men, and there is a wave to change the save rule to almost leave it to the discretion of the official score, because many times we'll see a guy in the 7th inning come in a much more difficult situation.
Molina with a drive to right center field. Dyson Speed runs it down. It's still St. Louis 11, Kansas City 3. It's a beautiful night in Kansas City, and we're inviting you to bring the kids to the game for every family fun day Sunday to enjoy face painters, balloon artists, kids entertainment by Radio Disney, and much more. Sundays at the Ballpark is your family destination. Go to Royals.com/Sunday for more information and tickets. We come to you from Kauffman Stadium. A lot of Cardinal fans happy at the score. It's 11-3 St. Louis over Kansas City. And I am Steve Physiok, along with Al Hrabosky, who has pitched with both organizations, with St. Louis and with Kansas City. And here comes Billy Butler.
Now, if Whitey was here, he'd say, Al helped us win a Western Division in '78, and you got me fired in '79.
All I can remember, Al, as we take a look at Billy Butler, a good hitter, and he swings and sends one to right field. Skip Schumacher will make the catch. Al, I've got to ask you this, because '78, '79, I used to come to Kauffman Stadium and watch the ball games. You used to go behind the mound, rub up the baseball, pop it in the glove, and turn. But you had a situation with an umpire who said they changed the rules, and they said you can't do that anymore. Tell me about that.
Bill Kunkel, who is a little, I was insane, he was crazy. And Bill Kunkel invented a rule on me on a 3-2 pitch with Rod Carew hitting in the 9th inning with a 1-run lead. And I went back there, and he told me I can't do that. Here's the video right here. And if you watch, I'll go back here and I'm rubbing up, getting myself up and meditating, talking to the Gypsy War Gods, doing a little meditation. And I come up here, and now Bill Kunkel calls me over. And watch him now. He starts to mock me, and he's going, how's Mike? How's Mike? Mike was my college coach that was a friend with Bill Kunkel. I proceeded to tell him where he could go, and then I went behind the mound. So when I went behind the mound again, who's waiting, this is all in a 3-2 pitch too. He stops me again, and he says, we made a rule, you can't go behind the mound. So I'm arguing with him, and then
all of a sudden you're out of your game. You're trying to get fired up.
Well, Whitey came out and said, what are you doing? He said, take him out, you can't do that anymore.
Hosmer pops up to left field for the second out.
Well, it went on to where I end up throwing a pitch on the screen. And Whitey said, I'm taking you out because he got you, not the hitters, not the other team, but the umpire got you. And end up there's the first curveball and only curveball I ever threw.
You're kidding.
Got Freddie. No. I tried to throw one. If I threw a curveball and it was for a strike, it surprised me, the hitter, and the umpire.
Well, you had the heater.
If you didn't look fastball at me, there was something wrong with you.
And now when they have the old timer games, you do throw your first pitch to the screen. I've seen you do that before, and I'm talking 40 feet up on the screen.
Well, I want to make sure I don't hit anybody. You know, the aim's not as good as it used to be. But those are long gone, unfortunately.
Jeff Francoeur with a 1-1 count, but you are one of the more entertaining pitchers in the history of the game, a true character of the game.
You know, as great as this game is, and I started doing it in '74, and then Fidrich came in '76 and was, you know, provided so much color and was so entertaining. As great as this game is, I guess it does say that it needs a few more characters. But the one thing, if you do that, when I put my neck in a noose, because the whole world watched me do that, and then if you don't get somebody out, there's no place to hide. So it was part of my preparation. It helped me. I had a teammate of mine one time say that, well, the only difference between you and me is I got a gimmick. And I said, yeah, but you're not willing to try and do something that brings all the attention to you, and if you fail, there's no place to hide. And I did it because I needed that little extra so I could compete at this level.
Joe Kelly will take care of Jeff Francoeur, and we will say so long to Al Roboski. Al, thanks for joining us the last couple of innings. Delightful conversation.
Great time, Steve.
The Cardinals with an 11-3 lead over Kansas City, and fans, we ask that you help provide for those in need during the annual Royals Wives Food Drive on Monday, June 25th and Tuesday, June 26th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Outfield Experience. There will be a silent auction on Monday and mystery bags that feature Royals autographed baseballs on Tuesday. Fans are also encouraged to drop off kid-friendly, non-perishable food items during both days. All proceeds will benefit the Bishop Sullivan Center. You can learn more at royals.com/food drive. Steve Physiak, I am welcoming back my partner, Rex Hudler. He was traded to the St. Louis Cardinals for a couple of innings, and then we got you back for a bucket of balls.
Hey, buddy, I'm going to tell you, I'm not so sure I'm worth a bucket of balls, but I'm grateful to be back in here in this Kansas City Royals booth at Kauffman Stadium, where it's a beautiful night. And I'm going to tell you, to see a sellout, to see red and blue on a special occasion like this weekend, Fizz, it just pumps me up. And to see the roofs being raised, go ahead, folks. Thank you for showing up. And hopefully we'll get a few more runs and make this game interesting.
The Show Me State with a lot of enthusiasm all weekend long as David Freese comes through, dropping a base hit to right field. Back up by Salvi Perez as he makes sure the runner does not advance. The batter will be Matt Carpenter after the single by David Freese.
Did you get, was Al Robowski, did you get him animated at all?
Oh, gosh, the last inning we were talking about his going behind the mound, rubbing up the baseball, firing it into the glove, and then his the trouble he had with Bill Kunkel, an umpire.
When he rolled the ball back?
Well, no, when Bill Kunkel went over to him and said, you know, they've changed the rule and you're not allowed to go behind the mound anymore. And he said, that's not a rule. And he goes, well, I just made it up. Bill Kunkel just made the rule up.
That's funny. Well, you know, I talked a little bit with Ricky Horton, the St. Louis Cardinals play-by-play broadcaster, my former teammate, about what looks different from this Cardinals team this weekend than last. And I said, well, there's two glaring differences. John Jay in center field and Schumacher, and also Carpenter at first base. They've already made a big difference in the outcome of this game. Carpenter's missed some time on the DL with a rib cage injury, but John Jay's two running catches off of Billy Butler and Alex Gordon has made a big difference. Beltran doesn't get to those balls. So the fact that the Cardinals are getting healthy, and so are the Royals.
Colon gets Carpenter at first base. Advancing to second is David Freese. And then you talked about Matt Carpenter. He has a single, a double, a sacrifice fly. Schumacher has a double and an RBI.
And look at the hustle, too. I mean, he's getting it down that line. Good hustle by Carpenter. But, you know, I couldn't help but come out of my seat when I saw Salvador Perez hit a line shot out of the yard. 2 for 2 in his debut coming back. That's exciting to see. That kind of offensive pop out of that position is a real breath of fresh air. And the fact he's commanding the staff, all the pitchers love him.
And we just saw what he shows. I mean, here he is, his first game back, and everything Rexy has done defensively is with conviction. The way he sets the signs with conviction, the way he talks to his pitching staff with conviction.
He's passionate, Fizz. Emotions play high in this game, even though the more level guys that are able to keep their emotions in check have a little more success at times because the game's so up and down. It's nice to see enthusiasm and passion out of one of their key position guys.
You can see the way he motioned. I want that ball down, and he got it down, and a swing and a miss from Green.
So I wasn't expecting any kind of offense out of him this early, but he was going to make an impression right away. Now, unfortunately, he can't throw the ball for those guys, but he can command them. And it'll show up as it goes along. It's not going to show up necessarily in one game.
Great block by Salvi Perez. No advance by the man at second base, David Freese.
Now, when that ball that Colon threw over Carpenter's head, kind of it was a slider that missed. Remember that pitch that went over his head? Ricky Horton said he didn't think that there was any intention by that. And I said, no, absolutely not. And he said if there was, him and I might throw down in the broadcast booth. And I said, well, we know who's going to win that one. It won't be you, Ricky. And then he said, I don't know, Hud. Okay, so here's the pitch right here. That was a spinning. See how it was a spinning slider? You know, it's right over his dome, and he ducked. And, you know, Holiday understands that was not a purpose or an intentional pitch. It just slipped.
I got my money on you, though.
But so then I said, okay, Ricky, let's have an arm wrestle. And we did, and I let him win.
No, you didn't.
Because he's hosting me in his booth.
Hud, that's not like you.
No, I'm a lot softer now, Fizz.
Escobar gets Green at first base for the second out of the 6th inning. You are such a competitive guy, whether it's on the battlefield, playing field of baseball, or in the broadcast booth, fighting others for foul balls, that you always win. Well, we will see a pitching change here as Ned Yost comes in, and he will take out Colon, and our Chevy pitching change brings on Tim Collins. Kansas City starting pitcher Vin Mazzaro knocked out early, gave up 7 runs in an inning and a third. Then Colon. Now Tim Collins, who has made a tremendous leap from last year to this year. At the age of 22, he is all-star quality.
Well, he certainly is. If you see that strikeout to innings pitched, 49 strikeouts and 34 and a third. And like hitters, pitchers have to make adjustments too. This game revolves around adjustments. And Collins has done that under first-year pitching coach Dave Island. It's taken a few of them a little bit of a while to figure out what Dave's message is, and it's simplify and attack. Attack the strike zone. Go after hitters. And for simplifying, it wasn't really that easy for Collins. He had a completely different delivery a year ago than he has now. And we're going to show it to you. We're going to show you the adjustments Dave made with him to try to just simplify it a little bit. Keep your shoulders more level. It's helping with the arc of your curveball. That one was a little short, but he's getting more break to it. And he's pitching from a downhill angle, which helps him with his shoulders level. And even at 5'10", whatever they list Collins at, I mean, maybe it's small, 5'7", okay. He still has a little downhill angle. Mix in his straight changeup. He has 3 very good weapons, is the reason he's piled up all them strikeouts in just 34 1/3 innings.
And that leads all American League relievers with 49 Ks, 12.84 per 9 innings, also number 1.
Okay, let's show you. Okay, look at last year. Look at how he rears back on his hip. His elbow's in the sky. Okay, there it is again. Look at that. Okay, look at this leg kick right here. Now, there he is now. Look at the difference in his delivery. Okay, he doesn't have that leg kick. He's not putting pressure on his hip. It's a totally different revamped delivery. And Tim Collins told me himself that his hip, that put so much pressure on his left hip that he only could throw 15 pitches before his hip started bothering him. Because he had that big leg kick and he was putting so much pressure on the backside of his leg. And so Dave said, hey, just keep your shoulders leveled, put the kick away, and let's just keep it simple. Simplify it. Don't make it so complicated. Too many moving parts.
Walks are down. Command is much better, although he does walk the leadoff man here, Skip Schumacher, the first man that he faces, excuse me, in this 6th inning. So now runners at the corners, and for Call, who has been on 3 times with a pair of walks and a single, he has scored a couple of runs. St. Louis scored 10 of their 11 runs in the first 2 innings. He had that dramatic tilt back. As you said, putting so much pressure on his hip.
I didn't even know it was the same guy. After seeing that last year's shot, I noticed it this past weekend when they said the last time Collins lost a game was in St. Louis, and when they showed him give up the home run, I said, that was him? I mean, just a night and day difference. Now he still has a leg kick, and that's where he generates his power for such a not an intimidating specimen, but he gets it. Okay, let's watch it again. Look at the leg kick. It only comes to his shoulder. Before it was, look at his head position in this shot here. Everything was facing up. Everything was moving up. Now it's going down in this new revamped delivery. Everything was coming up last year and then going down. It wasn't working as well.
That's a great pitch. Strikes out for Call on a big bender. The world champion Cardinals leading Kansas City 11-3, and fans, this July don't miss the biggest event of the summer as baseball's greatest stars battle for home field advantage in the Fall Classic. The road to the World Series begins with the 2012 Major League Baseball All-Star Game Tuesday, July 10th at 6:30 on Fox. This is also our Sonic Slam inning, so if Moose can go deep, Dennis Bishop will have a smile on his face. Dennis out of Prairie Village, Kansas will win $700 if a Royals goes deep. And if a Royal hits a grand slam out of the yard, Dennis will win $25 grand from Sonic and the Royals.
Went to a Sonic this afternoon, as a matter of fact, for my daughter. She loves it.
She's going to be a Jayhawk. There's a base hit to right field by Mike Moustakas. He's on for the 2nd time. Candidate for the All-Star game. He would be a great representative of Kansas City. And Casey had one of the best. How about Rick Russell's pitch to Bo Jackson? Did he get all this one?
Yeah, you could see that the catcher was, if we're going to catch it on the ground even, and look where he lifted that to. A tough part of that yard.
The big A, and you could see Eric Davis, who is the center fielder, go back and say, I've got no chance at this one. Here is Salvi Perez, and he sends one to third. Freese is going to go to second for one and on to first. Safe there.
All right. I liked what I saw with Moustakas going in hard on Green. That's what hardball's all about. Go down there and get a piece of a high chopper over there. Freese gives him a good feed in back of the base. He uses it, but look at Moose going after him. That is beautiful. Salvi, good hustle. No issues with his knee, but Moose, that's
a lot of Kansas City history, because there are no players more feared for the way they win into second base than the Royals' George Brett and Hal McRae. Middle infielders knew all about Brett and McRae.
Sure did, especially Willie Randolph of the Yankees.
What's that history?
Oh, Hal McRae took him out into left field and then held him down and waved Freddie Patek home. It was a mugging. That's when they changed the rule at second base. You had to be within arms touch of the base, or a foot. Any part of your body had to be able to touch the base.
So they called personal foul holding on McRae.
Would love to see that again if we could find it somewhere. That is, I've never seen anything like it in baseball.
Hard ball. Escobar went. Joe Kelly, the recipient of all of this drama. Joe Kelly, the distant relative of Machine Gun Kelly, an American gangster during Prohibition, who kidnapped a business tycoon by the name of Charles Urschel in 1933 and held him for a $200,000 ransom. And later musicians would do some music about Machine Gun Kelly. James Taylor sang a song about Machine Gun Kelly in his 1971 album Mudslide Slim.
Kelly's going to his breaking ball a lot more now. Third time around.
Off the end of the glove of David Freese.
Escobar gets his second knock. Hey, high fastball, stayed on top of it. Freese just couldn't quite get it off the end of his glove there. Freese is moving pretty well. Guy has ankle surgery on both of his ankles in the past. This always have given him a hard time, but he's moving pretty well.
Now Gerard Dyson, who is 0 for 2. Did reach on a fielder's choice back in the second, but was left stranded. Popped up to first base in the fourth. Batting average right now at .250. And the guy who he's replacing is getting healthier every single night. Lorenzo Cain. Cain has gone 3 for 12 with a double and 3 runs scored in his rehab work at Northwest Arkansas. Royals center fielder has been sidelined for the majority of the regular season, first with a groin strain, followed by a torn left hip flexor.
But at least he's back out there on the mend. They're going to want to see him play a couple weeks, I'm sure, before they even think about activating him, just so they know he's going to stay healthy. But Dyson, in the meantime, has been doing a good job in the outfield. He's catching a lot of mistakes over the plate by some pitchers, and he's run some down nicely.
It's tough to double up Dyson, but St. Louis does here in the sixth. Royals baseball is brought to you by Panera Bread, 23 locations and now open in Brookside. Visit us online at PaneraKansas.com. By Thoroughbred Ford, the best deals on new Fords are at thoroughbredford.com. And by AT&T Uvers, the new wireless receiver from AT&T Uvers. Visit att.com/free your TV. Rethink possible. beautiful Friday evening in Kansas City. The Cardinals with an 11-3 lead over the Royals. We head to the 7th inning of play.
Welcome to Real.
This is Tim Collins' last pitch to Rafael Furcal. Big bender.
Ooh, yeah, he got a swing and his helmet flew off and everything. And, you know, Furcal, he's going to be an all-star. You make an all-star shortstop look like that with that pitch, you know it's a beauty.
So Tim will face John Jay, Matt Holliday, and Carlos Beltran in this 7th inning.
You know, if Collins stays healthy, I'm going to be shocked and surprised if Ron Washington does not pick him to be on that team.
Well, as you know, I mean, the game means something now. And if Texas wins the American League West and gets to the 3rd straight World Series, they'll need a guy in the All-Star game who can get left-handers out like this guy.
And give him home field advantage.
Exactly.
And it didn't hurt at all that against the Rangers, when the Royals visited them a month or so ago, that he punched out 4 of their biggest, hottest hitters. So there's Collins, and there it is. A nice, crisp fastball on the outer half of the plate.
Just froze John Jay. He had no chance. And the Royals bullpen has been outstanding throughout this season. On Wednesday, 3 1/3 inning of shutout baseball and struck out 8 Houston Astros. Matt Holliday fouls it off, and it came back and hit him in the hand. Casey went 4-2 on that road trip to St. Louis and Houston. Now back home to finish interleague play against the Cardinals before they welcome the American League again on Monday with Tampa Bay.
Now the Royals, there's been a lot of talk about their bullpen and how good it is, but also you hear talk from Ned Yost about needing starters to go a little bit deeper in games so it can, you know, not burn them out. The Royals bullpen lead the league in innings pitched, 260 2/3 coming into this game, innings already. That leads the league for sure. It might lead the league in both of the leagues. I haven't checked that, but for the American League for sure.
But that's why Dayton Moore and his staff did a great job not only building the bullpen at the major league level, but at the AAA level, because they were going to need help, knowing that they didn't have the starting rotation ready yet. But yes, there are guys down in the minor leagues who have very good talent, who will be good starters in the future, but they are not big league ready yet. So he knew that he would need a lot of work from his bullpen. Frenchie, a long run, won't get there. And Holliday with the base hit, his 3rd of the game. It's the 4th time he's been on. Let's ask our AT&T trivia question. Who were the 5 players to play in postseasons with both the Royals and the Cardinals? I like that question. We'll give you the answer later in the game. In the '85 World Championship, that was pretty special. Cardinals and Royals met, and Rex, all I can tell you is I was whining like a big dog after the first 2 games when St. Louis beat Kansas City 3-1 and 4-2, and I had just married a young lady from St. Louis, Missouri 1 month before.
Ooh.
And she was such a good sport about her Cardinals leading and my Royals losing that when Casey came back and beat them 4-3, she was a much better sport than I was.
You rubbed it in on her a little?
Well, all I could think of was, you know, the Royal pitching was absolutely incredible with Saberhagen and Danny Jackson and Charlie Lebrand and on and on and on, and Gooby and the fellows. But in the 4 Royal wins, St. Louis' offense, and it was a very good offense, they scored only 3 runs in the 4 Kansas City wins. That's how good the KC pitching was.
Well, that is well documented and all good, but isn't it going to be nice one of these years real soon that the Royals have that kind of team again that can win?
Moustakas, beautifully executed 5-4-3 inning ending double play. The celebrities leaving after they just sang "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," led by Rob Riggle and Jason Sudeikis and Paul Rudd, who are from Kansas City. Time for our AT&T Uverse Reverse Replay.
All right, that first inning is something that Royals fans does not want to see again. But it's the top of the second. We'll show it to you, where the Royals scored, or excuse me, the Cardinals scored 6 runs after 4 runs in the first. It was not pretty if you're a Royals fan. Cardinals trying to get even.
19 batters went to the plate in the first 2 innings, and now Sam Freeman comes out of the bullpen to take over for Joe Kelly and try and hand him a victory. And Sam Freeman has been a good pitcher for St. Louis this year, a 5'11" wiry left-hander who went to the University of Kansas. He's a Jayhawk, Hud.
Sweet.
Here is Alex Gordon.
He's got a really good fastball and an excellent slider.
His job, get left-handers out. So this Jayhawk is going to be taking on a Nebraska Cornhusker. Freeman versus Gordon. In the air, left side. Freeze won't have a chance. You know, Rex, we were taking a look at that Missouri moment, all the history, and a lot of people don't recognize the incredible history that took place in both St. Louis and Kansas City. I mean, if you go underneath the arch, there's a fantastic exhibit for Meriwether Lewis and William Clark and their adventure and exploration of the Louisiana Territory. But a lot of people didn't know that you can go right here at Caw Point, where the Missouri and Kansas rivers meet, as Jay makes the catch. And that's where Lewis and Clark got together and had a cookout. And they actually camped there as they headed upstream on the Missouri River. So that's our history lesson for the moment. So that gives us a chance to talk trivia here at Kauffman Stadium and give you the answer to our AT&T trivia question. And the answer is not Meriwether Lewis and William Clark. They were not the lefty righties that Whitey Herzog went with for the Royals and Cardinals years ago. Who are the 5 players to play in postseasons with both the Royals and the Cardinals? We will give you the answer after this pitch. Steve Braun, Dane Orge, Danny Jackson, Darrell Porter, and Lonnie Smith.
No one got all those.
I got 3, and that was it. Forgot about Steve Braun. Everybody knows about Darrell Porter. Right now, Freeman with a 2-1 count. $37,902, a sellout here at Kauffman Stadium for game 1 of this 3-game series, and we expect a great crowd tomorrow in game 2 at 1 o'clock. Adam Wainwright against Luis Mendoza. Another 1 o'clock game on Sunday with Lynn against Sanchez, and Betancourt works the walk. St. Louis will send 2 of their very best in Wainwright against Lynn, who's had a terrific start in his first full season with St. Louis. Second in wins behind R.A. Dickey of the Mets. Here is Billy Butler. Billy, back in the first inning, sent a shot off of the leg of Joe Kelly, the starting pitcher. It glanced off his thigh and rolled into shallow right field. He reached. Eric Hosmer followed with a base hit to left. That made it 4-1. That's all Casey would score that inning, and St. Louis would come up with 6 more in their half. They do not get Billy Butler, as Carpenter had to come off the bag.
Okay, Billy charging hard. Let's see him hustle down that line, stay out of that double play. Especially with a score like this, you would think that some guys would just say, well, I'm going to take my time getting down the base. I just really like to see the way guys go 90 feet. It tells me a lot about them. Whether you're fast or not so fast, you respect baseball when you give it 100% of what you have that day.
Eric Hosmer, the batter, 1 for 3 with an RBI single back in the first. His batting average at .219. He had a terrific rookie campaign, hitting .293. The pitchers have made the adjustments. Now Eric making those adjustments back. Broken bat goes into right field, and the ball goes back into the seats.
Okay, you talk about adjustments. Now, a lot of guys make some not so noticeable physical adjustments and mechanical adjustments. We talked about the drastic change of Tim Collins over last year to this year. But talking with Kevin Seitzer today, he says that he really wants guys to stop the thinking, empty their brain, clear their head, get into the zone. Having good at-bats is what he's really stressing.
Hosmer grounds out. That will do it for KC in their half of the 7th inning. It remains St. Louis 11, the Royals 3.
All Cardinals over the Royals, 11-3 here at Kauffman Stadium. Joel Goldberg as Panera takes us around the league. Pittsburgh wins 4-2, so that certainly is good news for the Royals. Minnesota won better than Cincinnati as the Reds lose their 4th straight. Other action involving American League Central teams. Cleveland trying to hold on to a 2-0 lead down at Minute Maid Park, and Zach Greinke, complete game or almost a complete game. He goes 9, and the Brewers win 1-0. Bad news here for the Royals. Kelvin Herrera now into the game as they are losing, but the news much worse involving Felipe Paulino because it involves him for the rest of the year as Molina is going to break his bat and ground out to shortstop. Had a chance to talk to Felipe earlier today. He's always generous with his time. Very bummed out, obviously, about the news. He said he went out and he was pitching in his rehab appearance the other night in Northwest Arkansas. Said he felt pain in his elbow in the 3rd inning on his fastball and his slider. He couldn't locate it, and he was missing high instead of low, and that's when he knew something was wrong. Sharp pain in that elbow. MRI yesterday. He fully expects that he's going to have Tommy John surgery in 2 weeks, guys. And he said he's never had surgery in his life, but he's going to compete in his rehab the way he did on the field. Expects to be back by the All-Star break next year and says, I've got too much to show in baseball. Guys?
Thank you very much, Joel, as David Freese comes through with his 3rd hit of the game, a pair of singles and a double. He's driven in a couple, and that's why it's so important to have a good minor league organization, and the Royals certainly do. As a matter of fact, they are landed a trio of players in the rosters of the Futures game that will be contested here at Kauffman Stadium on Sunday, July 8th at 4 o'clock. And current members of the Omaha Storm Chasers, Will Myers, an outfielder, and Jake Odorizzi, a right-handed pitcher, will play for Royals Hall of Famer George Brett on the U.S. team, while right-handed pitcher Yordano Ventura, a 21-year-old off the Wilmington Class A roster, will be prepared to pitch for World Team manager Bernie Williams. And it's so important, and really the Royals have done a great job drafting and signing players from the Latin American countries, and 2 examples are of Dayton Moore's success are the battery. Kelvin Herrera, the pitcher, and Salvi Perez, the catcher. One from the Dominican Republic, one from Venezuela. Left field, Gordon will take care of it. 2 outs. And And that is so important to be able to send scouts down into the Latin American countries, in Venezuela and to the Dominican Republic and Panama, where you don't draft. You go down there and your scouts do some hard, tough work and find that diamond in the rough.
29% of major league rosters are filled with Latin players, and I'll tell you, if you're not scouting down there and looking for the next Escobars and Herreras and Salvador Perez's, you're out of the game. You are missing some great talent.
Another fine young pitcher in the organization by the name of Sugar Ray Merriman got a promotion to Northwest Arkansas from Class A Wilmington just 2 days after being the winning pitcher for the Carolina League All-Stars in a 9-1 victory over the California League All-Stars. Merriman is his starting pitching. There are opportunities there. Fouled off. But the Royals have to be encouraged by what they have seen from their rotation. They were hoping to get Paulino back. Well, the story is he won't be back. But Rex, if Hochevar can pitch like he has lately, that is a huge lift, as Hosmer will record the final out of the 8th inning for the St. Louis Cardinals. Cards still lead by 8. Royals trail by 8. Fans, are you hitting the road? We'll take the Royals with you this season. Subscribe to MLB.tv today to see every Royals out-of-market game live online and on your favorite devices in HD quality. Visit Royals.com to order and get more details. MLB.tv, baseball everywhere. John Jay, who just came back from a shoulder injury, back from the disabled list today, is an outstanding defensive center fielder for St. Louis. And this is our Home Depot doing more on defense.
Okay, this ball was laser lined. I didn't think they were going to get to a really effortless motion there. I mean, just smooth. They've missed this guy, and they're glad he's back. He's one of their big contributors defensively.
Descalso comes back in the ball game, or comes into the game for the first time, taking over defensively at second base for Tyler Green. Tyler Green moves over to shortstop to give Furcal a little bit of a break with a 8-run lead for St. Louis. And the new pitcher is the Cardinals' Eduardo Sanchez, who threw the pitch that Yuniesky Betancourt knocked out in the 15th inning to beat St. Louis the last time these two teams met. It was a well-struck ball.
Now, Cardinals are playing a little payback here in game 1 of this series, and they didn't waste any time at all.
10 of their 11 runs came in the first 2 innings. Sanchez, 5'11", just 23 years of age, from Venezuela, and Francoeur did not like that last call, and he is down in the count, 0-2. Mike Easterbrook has called the low strike, sometimes below the knees, but a pitcher catcher see that and they say, okay, if he's going to call it there, let's go a little bit further down and see if we can get the call or can get the batter to swing.
Yeah, he threw back-to-back pitches there, and Frenchie almost went on that one.
Outside. Royals fans have been white-knuckling it lately with so many close games. 38 of the 67 decided by 2 runs or less, but doesn't look like tonight. And there's a good fastball on the outside corner at 96 miles an hour. A called strike 3, and Francoeur is gone.
Oh man, that's a really good pitch on the outside part of the plate.
Easterbrook calling balls and strikes. We'll have Rob Drake doing it tomorrow afternoon. He's right now at first base. Here's Mike Moustakas. He's been on twice, hit by a pitch and scored a run on Salvi Perez's first big fly of the year, and singled to right field in his last at bat. Both he and Eric Hosmer, very good friends, each with 33 RBIs. A strike.
Moose has 3 bats before the game he starts with, and he has them all setting up on the bench, just like a player would sit on the bench. His bats are sitting on the bench or standing there. And he uses all 3 of them during the game.
Two outs. It's Miller time, and that means Salvador Perez is our story as we go with another Miller Lite. And Perez sent one almost into the drink.
Okay, but go ahead and get that first hit. That's beautiful. But now that second pitch, a home run. Look at that action with the big fella. Welcome back, Salvi. Man, we've been waiting for him and for the whole season. And before the season even started, talking to Dayton Moore, he said, you know, the one position that we really can't afford to have an injury is our catcher. We hope that doesn't happen. And like a week later, he hurts his knee.
They lost both of their top prospects, catching prospects, and Manny Pena first, and then just a couple of days later, Salvador Perez.
This kid Sanchez, he's got a really hard fastball, locating it well, and a wicked slider.
Right now, the Royals are carrying 3 catchers. Perez is out at first base. Sanchez goes 1, 2, 3 in the 8th. We head to the 9th. All Cardinals.
Top of the 9th at Kauffman Stadium. Jeff Montgomery, Joel Goldberg getting ready for Boulevard Royals Live. After the game, we'll be talking about the Cardinals making adjustments to Vin Mazzaro. Salvador Perez's first game of the 2012 season. Ned Yost reaction and more from the clubhouse. And Jeff Montgomery analysis coming up. And who knows, maybe we'll pepper him with questions about Lewis and Clark and Machine Gun Kelly and get you ready for tomorrow's matchup too, guys.
Joel, you were listening.
Always.
I'm so proud of you. The test will be at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, multiple choice. Here is Jose Mijares, and he is pitching in his 35th game this year, has a sharp ERA of 2.03, strong whip, and look at the strikeouts to walks, 24-5.
Nope, he is a specialist out of the pen. Good fastball, sets guys up, big breaking ball.
Shane Robinson comes off the bench to pinch hit. We saw him last week. His excellent speed. Strike 2.
6 for 25 off of Matheny's bench this year. So he's their go-to guy.
Last fastball touched 94 miles an hour. Great location by Jose Mijares, and he has Robinson down in the count, no balls and 2 strikes. Daniel Descalso will bat for the first time. He's waiting in the on-deck circle. They appeal. He did not go. Count moves to 1-2, but the Royals really need a bullpen pitcher to go, or excuse me, their starting pitcher to go deep tomorrow. And that man is Luis Mendoza, after Vin Mazzaro only went an inning and a third and gave up 7 runs.
He just wasn't on. Location, he walked the first batter, hit the next one. Base hit, base hit, base hit, walk. This was tough first 2 innings. But Mijares, nice job of going after the pinch hitter Robinson.
Now Descalso will come to the plate, and here's a look at that pitch by Mijares, a fastball that just did couch the outside corner, framed perfectly by Perez. When the Royals bat in the bottom half of the 9th inning, it will be Escobar, Dyson, and Gordon scheduled to hit.
Mijares has done a great job against lefties. Just giving up a 218 average. 12 for 55.
He's allowed only 2 earned runs over his last 20 appearances, spanning 14 innings for a 1.26 ERA. That's a shot up the middle past Escobar into center field. So Descalso is on. And that is the 17th hit by St. Louis. They have 11 runs on 17 hits. The Royals with 3 on 9.
Daniel Descalso, this guy is a hard ball player. Scrappy. Gets his uniform dirty. I asked him today, is he going to break out those Redbird socks that he wore last weekend against the Royals? And he said, you know, I don't have any pants that tailor those, and I left the socks at home. I said, come on, man, that fits your personality. That's your game style, man. Where are those socks? Break them out. You could hike up those pants, you know, you can blouse them, you know, that's the style nowadays. That right there, they all wear them down baggy, like, you know, they haven't had their pants tailored properly. Some of them don't care, they just wear them down there, and that's just the style nowadays.
I'm always amazed at what stands out to you. How ball players dress, the gum that they chew. Frenchie goes high socks one game, now he's got them down near his shoe tops.
Well, you know what? It's the little things that you learn over the course of playing that you know that it's the body language. So you're always watching, you're observing haircuts.
That's a perfect style.
All those
Doug
things.
Sisson.
That's Sis right there. Sisson's an old school guy. He likes to show the blue. And that's what their minor league system, all of them show blue. And that was one of the many things I was impressed with in spring training with the Royals this year, going down on the farm and looking. And they all look the same. That's good. You don't want any individuals standing out. Everyone has a certain rule, pants, blouse. I like the fact that their hair was tailored. It was cropped nice. They had their haircuts good. Wasn't any jewelry hanging around their necks or anything. You know, I like.
They were professionals.
I like the discipline in the organization. It starts right down there with the nuts and bolts of your organization. It's impressive to see that.
The Kansas City organization the last 3 years before this season was ranked #1 by Baseball America. Their system, the way they had drafted the players that they had signed from foreign countries. Now they're beginning to graduate to the big leagues. And Mijares gets a big strikeout of John Jay here in the 9th inning. Second strikeout in the 9th. Hey fans, bring the entire family to Major League Baseball's All-Star Fan Fest from July 6th through July 10th at Kansas City Convention Center, Bartle Hall. Major League Baseball All-Star Fan Fest is an interactive baseball theme park and the largest baseball fan event in the world. Get free autographs from baseball legends and members of the Hall of Fame and much more. To guarantee your preferred date and time slot, buy tickets now at allstargame.com. All attractions are included with the price of admission. And you'll want your Royals to be well represented. We talked about the solid years that Billy Butler has been having, Mike Moustakas. You can vote them in. And then, of course, several pitchers very deserving of being selected as all-stars. We talked about Tim Collins, his excellence earlier tonight. Jonathan Broxton also very deserving. He's been one of the league leaders in saves all season long. He has 18, and that is 4th in the American League behind Perez, Johnson, and Rodney. We get the All-Star game this year, and mighty proud of it.
And rightly so. Fans in this city have waited a long time to get the game back, and they're getting it, and it's totally prepared. Talking to a lot of the Cardinals that really some of them haven't been here since they remodeled it, were really impressed during batting practice looking out.
KC last had it in '73. The count is 3-2 to Matt Holliday, a two-time All-Star. He swings and foul tips it into the glove, and Mijares with 3 strikeouts in the 9th. We have a bit of controversy. Earlier, we asked the AT&T trivia question, who are the 5 players to play in postseasons with both the Royals and the Cardinals? Rex Hudler has just circled the word play. Now, in 1982, Mark Littell was on the St. Louis Cardinals. He did not play, though. He never got in a game. And that is according to our stats guru, Al Broughton. Braun, Orge, Jackson, Porter, and Smith are the 5 we're going with because Littell apparently did not play. Now, I don't have the stats in front of me. I'm just trusting Al.
The question was, did they play? To play in the game.
Exactly. Here is the pitch, and it is fouled back by Alcides Escobar.
But we love the fact that our fans are paying attention, and they love the questions as much as we do. They're into it, and we give our best guesses every time, and we don't know, they don't let us know. So folks, continue to watch these questions that are brought up. They're the best daily.
And challenge us. We've been talking about all kinds of things when the drama was taken out early with a 10-1 Cardinal lead over Kansas City, which has become an 11-3 score. We even started talking about the Louisiana Purchase.
Now you kind of got me a little updated on something under the arch. Was somebody threw a picnic under the arch?
No, there's a museum under the arch about Meriwether Lewis and William Clark and Thomas Jefferson sending them out to discover the Louisiana Territory. And I was just telling our fans that they can go down to Caw Point here in Kansas City, just across from the airport that you and I fly into, the downtown airport. Across that river is Caw Point, where Lewis and Clark made camp. And they've got a beautiful little historic monument down there, a little history lesson for you. And I think you should go. Matter of fact, I'll take you. We'll go fishing there.
I think they broke out any wheat boulevards in their picnic.
There's a fly ball to right field. I think that is something that Joel Goldberg will be discussing with Jeff Montgomery in the postgame on the Boulevard postgame show.
Okay, our guy Al Broughton has went ahead and dug deeper about our player that a fan thought was in the game but really wasn't.
Here is Gerard Dyson.
Okay, Littell played his last game for the Cardinals that year in June.
All right.
He was not a member of the World Series.
So there. But as you know, we just ask the questions and give the answers to the best of our ability. One out in the bottom of the 9th inning. This is the first of a 3-game series between the St. Louis Cardinals to the east and the Kansas City Royals right here at Kauffman Stadium. KC took 2 of 3 in St. Louis last weekend, winning in dramatic fashion 3-2. The Friday game was absolutely sensational because it ended on a defensive play with a tremendous throw by Mike Moustakas from foul territory to catch a Cardinal at the plate and end the game. Royals would lose on Saturday 10-7, but win in 15 innings on Sunday 5-3.
Well, they're not going to give away any at-bats here late. Dyson, he's one of those guys. You know, in the 7th inning or later, he's got a .314 average. These guys take pride in their at-bats.
Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, it will be tall right-hander Adam Wainwright, one of the Cardinals' best, against Luis Mendoza, a Royal that has emerged in the last few starts to pitch very well for KC. Dyson has himself an infield hit.
Now Green kind of lost his footing. Couldn't quite get a good throw off, but you know, not to say he would have gotten Dyson anyway. Okay, he picks it up, and then he kind of lost his back leg, and when that happens, you don't have anything to throw off of. Throw a little worm burner over there to first.
That is the 10th hit by the Kansas City Royals in this game. Alex Gordon has one of them. That was a single back in the 4th inning. He has been more of a doubles machine this year with 21 doubles. Came in 4th in the American League in that department. Freeze does not have room. Ian Kinsler of Texas, Shin Soo Choo of Cleveland, and Adrian Gonzalez of Boston all had one more double than Alex Gordon coming into tonight's play. Salas working him up the ladder. Gets him to chase a high fastball for a 1-2 count. Then strikes him out on an off-speed pitch.
Pull the string on him. That's a very effective pitch. The changeup.
St. Louis with 11 runs on 17 hits. The Royals with 3 on 10. Betancourt sends this one foul, and there are quite a few Cardinals with multi-hit games, including Furcal, who's one of the leaders in the National League All-Star balloting. He leads at shortstop. Carlos Beltran leads in the outfield. Matt Holliday, who has gone to 5 All-Star games in the past 2 with St. Louis, has a lot of votes, and he has a 3-hit game in this one. Freeze has 3 hits. Yadier Molina with a pair. Carpenter has a couple of hits. Holliday with 3.
Dyson took second base and looked like he had a little small limp. Hopefully running that ball out to first didn't hurt anything.
Blocked nicely by Yadier Molina. St. Louis jumped all over Kansas City starter Vin Mazzaro in the very first inning. Sent 9 men to the plate, and they've scored 4 times. The Royals scored a run in the bottom half of the first inning, but St. Louis said, "You're not coming back," and they plated 6 runs on 7 hits in the second inning when 10 Cardinals batted. Pretty good curveball, but a little bit outside. St. Louis is getting healthier and healthier. They got 3 players on their offense off the disabled list and back with the team this week. John Jay, we talked about, Matt Carpenter and Skip Schumacher back this week. They had not played great baseball the last month of the season, losing 13 of 21 since May 28th. Betancourt works the walk. And the batter will be Billy Butler. Butler with a 1-for-4 game. That one base hit was when he smashed one off the starting pitcher Joe Kelly's leg, and it glanced into right field. Eric Hosmer would follow with the first pitch he saw and drop a base hit to left that scored Yuniesky Betancourt. Out of play.
Yeah, you know that Kelly's probably done icing that quadricep now. You know, probably feels a little bit better after the ice, but they'll make sure that they watch that. Now, if he was a position player and a runner, sometimes those muscles get a little fatigued and maybe you have a little pull problem after that, but they'll make sure to take care of that bruise that Billy Butler put on him. That hit him pretty squarely.
We saw that with Felipe Paulino, and several pitches later he tweaked his groin and was placed in the disabled list.
Got to keep an eye on those.
Here's the pitch, and Butler sends a ground ball up the middle, and it is past the shortstop, Tyler Green, into left field. Coming around to score is Dyson, the Royals' 4th run. So Butler gets RBI number 42 with a base hit to left center field.
That's not giving your at-bats away there. Ball had some top spin on it, bounced the second time, and no chance for Green.
So Eric Hosmer will get a chance against the right-hander. And he steps to the plate 1-for-4 with an RBI single back in the first. First pitch changeup, strike 1. Saturday and Sunday games begin at 1 o'clock. We hope to see them packed and fans dressed in blue at Kauffman Stadium. Foul. Wainwright and Mendoza tomorrow, and on Sunday Lance Lynn, who has been a great contributor to the St. Louis starting rotation. When you consider that right now they currently have 2 starting pitchers in the disabled list, the great Chris Carpenter and also Jaime Garcia. Kansas City has 2 starters in the DL, both done for the year, and Felipe Paulino and Danny Duffy. Hosmer is out, so too is Kansas City, and St. Louis wins game 1 of this 3-game I-70 series. Final score 11-4. We'll be back to wrap it up after this. St. Louis with an 11-4 victory over Kansas City in game 1 of the I-70 Interleague Series, and they jumped on the Royals early, scoring 10 runs. But our player of the game, Rex, has to be Salvi Perez. What a comeback.
Oh, just happy to see him. Now, we weren't expecting this kind of production, but he goes ahead and gets him a base hit, and this line shot in his bullpen out there was quite a shot, and really not expected for Salvi, as he's got a nice wide base. Brings his leg up just a hair. Good balance there. He looked in mid-season form. It's almost mid-season, but this first game back in 2012, he goes yard with a nice line shot. A linea.
Our next telecast on Fox Sports Kansas City, Cardinals against the Royals. It'll be Wainwright against Mendoza. That's tomorrow afternoon. Coverage starts at 12:30. The winning pitcher is Joe Kelly. The losing pitcher, Vin Mazzaro, had his worst start of the year as he gave up 7 runs in an inning and a third. For Rex Hudler and Al Roboski, I'm Steve Pizziak saying so long from Kauffman Stadium. Now stay tuned for Boulevard Royals Live coming your way next.